UT8F was 7 months pregnant with my first child, and my mother-in-law, Diana, insisted on throwing me a baby shower. I should have known something was wrong from the very beginning. Our relationship had always been strained. A thin wire of civility pulled so tight I was afraid to breathe on it. She was the kind of woman who could smile while delivering a devastating insult, leaving you to wonder if you had imagined the venom. For years, she had made it clear, in 100 small ways, that I was not the woman she would have chosen for her perfect son, Mark. I was too quiet. My family was not as wealthy as hers. I did not share her love for golf and gossip. But a baby, I thought, changes things. A baby is a bridge. I foolishly believed this baby shower was her way of building that bridge. A white flag fluttering over the battlefield of our polite family dinners. I was wrong. It was not a white flag. It was a trap. The party was at her house, a large, sterile place where every piece of furniture looked too expensive to sit on. The guest list was almost entirely made up of her friends, women with identical hairstyles and judgmental eyes. They moved through the rooms in a cloud of perfume, their laughter sharp and brittle. My own friends were few, and my best friend Lena stood close to me, a silent promise of support in a hostile land. My mother had passed away when I was a teenager, so my side of the family was just a few cousins who lived too far away to attend. I felt like an island in the middle of an ocean I did not know how to navigate. Mark drifted around, smiling and accepting congratulations, oblivious to the tension coiling in my stomach. He was good at being oblivious. It was his greatest skill and his greatest weakness. After an hour of stilted conversation and gifts I knew I would never use, Diana tapped a crystal glass with her fork. The room fell silent. She stood in the center of the living room, a smug, satisfied look on her face. She held her glass high, the champagne inside sparkling under the chandelier. Her eyes scanned the room, landing on me for a fraction of a second before moving on. I felt a chill despite the warmth of the day. "I would like to make a toast," she announced, her voice ringing with false warmth. "A toast to family, to the future, to the next generation that will carry on our name." She paused, letting the silence stretch, building the drama. She loved an audience. I saw Mark smiling proudly at her, and my heart ached with a feeling I could not name. It was a mix of dread and disappointment. Then she turned her gaze directly to me. Her smile was a thin, cruel line. "And so?" she said, her voice dropping just enough to make everyone lean in. I raised my glass. To my real grandchild. The words hung in the air, heavy and poisonous. A few of her friends tittered nervously, while others exchanged knowing glances. I felt the blood drain from my face. My mind raced, trying to make sense of it. Real grandchild? What did that mean? Was this a joke? A horribly misguided attempt at humor? I looked at Mark, my eyes pleading with him to say something, to fix this, to shut her down. He just stood there, his smile frozen on his face, a look of mild confusion clouding his features. He did not understand. Or maybe he did not want to. Before I could even form a word, before I could demand an explanation for the public humiliation, the front door swung open. Standing in the doorway was a woman I recognized from old photographs on Mark's social media. It was Sophie, his ex-girlfriend. The one he dated for 5 years before me. The one Diana always said was the one that got away. And she was pregnant. Not just a little pregnant. She was hugely, undeniably pregnant, her belly round and high under a blue maternity dress. She looked to be about as far along as I was. The room erupted in whispers. Sophie's eyes met mine for a fleeting second, filled with an emotion I could not decipher. Then she looked at Diana. A slow, triumphant smile spread across my mother-in-law's face. She set her glass down and walked towards Sophie, her arms outstretched. "Sophie, darling," Diana boomed, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I am so glad you could finally make it. We were just toasting you." She wrapped Sophie in a warm embrace, a perfect portrait of a loving matriarch welcoming a cherished daughter. I could not breathe. The air in the room was thick and suffocating. This was not my baby shower. It was never for me. It was a stage, and I was the fool in a play I did not know I was in. Every smiling face, every pastel-wrapped gift, every polite compliment was a lie. It was all part of an elaborate, cruel performance designed to break me. I looked at Mark again. His face was now pale, his mouth slightly agape. He looked shocked, but it was the shock of a man who had walked into a mess he had hoped to avoid. Not the shock of a man who had just witnessed his wife and unborn child be so utterly betrayed. In that moment, watching him stand there, paralyzed and useless, I felt a profound and terrifying sense of being completely and utterly alone. The bridge I thought we were building was not a bridge at all. It was a cliff, and his mother had just pushed me off it. My body moved before my mind did. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the polished hardwood floor. The sound cut through the murmuring, and all eyes turned to me. Diana's smile faltered for a second. She had expected tears, a scene, a dramatic exit that would paint me as the unstable, emotional wife. I would not give her the satisfaction. I simply turned and walked towards the back door that led to the garden. I did not run. I walked with a deliberate, steady pace. My hand resting on my belly, protecting my child from the poison in that house. Lena was right behind me. "Clara, wait," she said, her voice a low, urgent whisper. I pushed the glass door open and stepped out into the manicured garden. The sudden warmth of the sun was a shock after the chilled air of the house. I stumbled onto the perfectly green lawn, and finally my legs gave out. I sank to my knees, gasping for air that would not come. The world was tilting, the edges of my vision turning dark. "Breathe, Clara. Just breathe," Lena said, kneeling in front of me, her hands on my shoulders. "In and out. That's it. You're okay. We're getting out of here." Her voice was a lifeline in the swirling chaos of my thoughts. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to block out the image of Diana's smug face, of Sophie standing in the doorway, of Mark's helpless expression. The back door slid open again. It was Mark. He looked terrified. "Clara, honey, are you okay?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. I looked up at him, and the anger that had been simmering beneath the shock and hurt finally boiled over. "Am I okay?" I asked, my own voice dangerously quiet. "Are you seriously asking me that right now?" "I didn't know," he said quickly, holding his hands up as if to ward off an attack. "I swear, I had no idea she was going to be here. I didn't know Mom was going to say that." "You didn't know?" I repeated, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "Your mother just made a toast to her real grandchild, while another pregnant woman walked into my baby shower. And you didn't know?" "It's not what you think," he insisted, his eyes darting back towards the house. "Sophie and we've been broken up for years. That baby can't be mine. It's impossible." "Then why is she here, Mark?" Lena chimed in, her voice cold as ice. "Why would your mother orchestrate this entire humiliation?" "Because she's crazy," he exclaimed, running a hand through his hair. "She's obsessed with Sophie. She never got over our breakup. This is all her. It has nothing to do with me." I struggled to my feet, Lena helping me up. "It has everything to do with you," I said, my voice shaking with rage. "You stood there. You let her do it. You heard what she said? You saw who walked in and you did nothing. You just stood there and watched." "What was I supposed to do?" he pleaded. "Start a massive fight in front of all those people?" "Yes," I shouted, the sound raw and painful in my throat. "You were supposed to defend me. You were supposed to defend our child. You were supposed to choose me." The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. He never chose me. Not really. He had just drifted into our life together because it was easier than fighting his mother. And now, when the fight had come to our doorstep, he was still choosing the path of least resistance. He was choosing his own comfort over my heart. "Let's just go home," he said, his voice soft and pleading. We can talk about this at home. Please, Clara, let's just leave. I looked at him, at this man I had promised to spend my life with, and I felt a chasm opening between us, wide and deep and possibly uncrossable. Take me home, Lena, I said, turning my back on him. I can't be with him right now. Clara, don't do this, Mark begged, reaching for my arm. I pulled away from his touch as if it had burned me. Don't touch me, I whispered. Just don't. Lena put her arm around my waist and guided me around the side of the house towards her car parked on the street. I did not look back. I could feel Mark's eyes on me, but I refused to give him the satisfaction of seeing my tears. The tears could wait. They could wait until I was somewhere safe, far away from the wreckage of the life I thought I had. The drive to our apartment was silent. Lena held my hand, her grip firm and steady. I stared out the window, watching the world go by, feeling completely disconnected from it. The sun was shining. People were laughing in the parks we passed. Life was continuing as if my own personal world had not just been shattered into a million pieces. When we got to my apartment, the silence was deafening. Every object seemed to mock me. The photos on the wall of Mark and me, smiling and happy. The half-assembled crib in the corner of the living room. The little stack of baby books on the coffee table. It all felt like a lie. Do you want me to stay? Lena asked gently. I shook my head. I think I need to be alone for a little while, I said. But thank you, Lena, for everything. Call me if you need anything, she said, giving me a final, fierce hug. Anything at all. I'll take my phone to the shower. I'm serious. I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. After she left, I walked through the apartment, touching things, trying to ground myself. But everything felt foreign, tainted. I ended up in the nursery. We had painted it a soft yellow. A mobile of fluffy white clouds hung over the crib. I had spent hours in this room, dreaming of the baby, of our future, of the family we were going to be. Now the room felt cold and empty. The dreams felt like ashes in my mouth. Mark came home a few hours later. He found me sitting on the floor of the nursery, surrounded by tiny clothes I had folded and unfolded a dozen times. He stood in the doorway, looking lost. Clara, he began, I am so sorry. I talked to my mom. I told her she was completely out of line. And what did she say? I asked, my voice flat and devoid of emotion. She thinks she was helping, he stammered. She has this crazy idea about Sophie's baby. She's not thinking straight. And you? I asked, looking up at him. What are you thinking, Mark? I'm thinking that I love you, he said, taking a step into the room. And I hate that my mother hurt you. I'll make it right. I promise. But his words felt hollow. Promises were easy. Action was hard. And he had already shown me what he was capable of in the face of his mother's cruelty. Nothing. I did not respond. I just continued to fold a tiny white onesie, my movements stiff and mechanical. He eventually gave up and left the room. I could not sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Diana's triumphant smile. I heard her voice dripping with malice, saying those awful words. I felt the collective stare of a room full of strangers who were all in on the joke. The joke was me. The joke was my baby. Around 3 a.m, I gave up on sleep. I went to the living room and sat on the couch in the dark. The laptop was on the coffee table, left open. Mark must have been using it before he came to bed. My hand hovered over the trackpad. I knew it was wrong. I knew I should not look. But the need to understand, to know the full extent of the betrayal, was a physical ache inside me. I had to know what I was up against. I moved the cursor. His email was open. My eyes scanned the inbox. And then I saw it. An email chain from the week before. The sender was Diana. The subject line was, "The plan." My heart stopped. My breath caught in my chest. For a moment, I could not move. It felt like standing on the edge of that cliff again, knowing the fall was coming. With a trembling hand, I clicked it open. The words on the screen swam before my eyes. It was all there, in black and white. A detailed, step-by-step plan to ruin me. Diana had written the first email. "Mark, darling," it began. "I have wonderful news. I have confirmed that Sophie is pregnant. This is the chance we have been waiting for. This is your legacy. We need to act quickly. I have invited her to the shower. When she arrives, I will make the announcement. It will be a public declaration. Clara will have no choice but to leave gracefully. She will see that she cannot stand in the way of a real family. You must be ready to comfort Sophie and accept your responsibility. This is what is best for everyone, especially your child." I felt sick. I had to stop reading to take a deep, shuddering breath. I scrolled down, my dread growing with every line. I found Mark's reply. "Mom, this is insane," he had written. "You can't do this. Sophie's baby is probably not mine. We were careful." Diana's response was swift and dismissive. "Nonsense. It is a sign. The timing is too perfect. She is the right kind of girl for our family. You always knew that. Clara was a mistake, a temporary diversion. It is time to correct that mistake. Do not be weak, Mark. Think of your child, your real child." The phrase hit me again, this time with the full weight of its premeditated cruelty. It was not a slip of the tongue. It was a weapon, carefully chosen and aimed directly at my heart. I scrolled further, my hands shaking so badly I could barely control the mouse. I found another reply from Mark. "Mom, please," he wrote, "don't put me in this position. Clara doesn't deserve this. This will destroy her." He knew. He knew it would destroy me, and yet his words were so weak, so pleading. He was not commanding her to stop. He was not threatening to cut her off. He was begging her not to make things difficult for him. He was not protecting me. He was protecting himself from confrontation. The final email was from Diana, sent the day before the shower. "The plan is in motion. I will see you tomorrow. Just be ready to do the right thing. I am so proud of the man you're becoming." And Mark had not replied. His silence was his consent. He knew she was planning to ambush me. He knew she was going to humiliate me. He knew Sophie might be there. He knew everything. And he had walked into that party, smiled, and played the part of the happy father-to-be, all while knowing a storm was about to break over my head. He had lied to my face on his mother's perfect lawn, telling me he had no idea. The betrayal was so immense, so complete, that it felt like it had hollowed me out. There was nothing left inside but a cold, echoing emptiness. The sadness was a physical weight, pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. But as I sat there in the dark, staring at the glowing screen, a new feeling began to stir in the emptiness. It was small at first, a tiny spark in the cold, but it grew steadily, feeding on the pain and the shock. It was anger, a pure, cold, clarifying anger. I was not going to be destroyed. I was not going to leave gracefully. I was not a mistake to be corrected. I was a mother, and I would protect my child. And I would not let them get away with this. I stood up and walked to the printer. I printed every single email in the chain. I found a flash drive in the desk drawer and saved a copy of the webpage. I gathered the papers, folded them, and put them in my purse. Evidence, leverage, ammunition. The battle was not over. It had just begun. And this time I would be ready. I would not be the victim in their twisted play. I would be the one who burned the whole stage to the ground. The next morning, I moved like a ghost through our apartment. I made coffee, I showered, I dressed. I did all the normal things one does to start a day, but I felt completely detached, as if I were watching a movie of someone else's life. Mark woke up and found me in the kitchen, staring into a cup of coffee I had no intention of drinking. "Good morning," he said, his voice tentative. He was testing the waters, trying to gauge my mood. Is it? I replied, not looking at him. He sighed and came to stand beside me, leaning against the counter. Clara, can we please talk about this? I feel like you're a million miles away. I am, I said. I decided then not to reveal what I knew. Not yet. A direct confrontation would only lead to more lies, more denials, more attempts to manage my feelings. I needed information. I needed to understand the full scope of the conspiracy before I made my move. I needed to be strategic. I turned to face him, forcing my expression to be neutral. Mark, I've had some time to think. And I need you to be completely honest with me if we have any chance of getting through this. He nodded eagerly, relief washing over his face. He thought I was ready to forgive and forget. He was so wrong. Of course, he said. Anything. I'll be an open book. When was the last time you spoke to Sophie? I asked, my voice calm and even. He hesitated for a fraction of a second. But it was enough. I saw the flicker of calculation in his eyes. He was deciding which version of the truth to tell me. I told you, he said. It was a long time ago. We haven't spoken in ages. Not a text? Not an email? Not a phone call? I pressed. No, he said, shaking his head. Nothing. My mom is the one who has been talking to her. She's been filling her head with all sorts of nonsense. He was already building his defense, painting himself as another victim of his mother's manipulations. It was a clever strategy, but I could see right through it. And what about your mother? I continued, keeping my tone inquisitive rather than accusatory. Did she tell you she had invited Sophie to the shower? No, not exactly, he said, choosing his words carefully. She mentioned she had been in touch with her. She said something like, "Wouldn't it be nice if Sophie could be there?" But I thought she was just fantasizing. I never thought she would actually do it. I told her it was a crazy idea. You told her it was a crazy idea. I repeated slowly. What were her exact words, Mark? Try to remember. He looked uncomfortable. I don't know, Clara. It was a brief conversation. I told her not to, and I thought that was the end of it. He was a terrible liar. He was giving me just enough of the truth to seem credible, but he was holding back the most important parts. He was protecting his mother. He was protecting himself. I had given him a chance to come clean, and he had thrown it back in my face. That was all I needed to know. Okay, I said, turning back to my coffee. Okay, Mark. My coldness seemed to finally unnerve him. What does that mean? He asked. What are you thinking? I'm thinking I need to get some air, I said, pouring my coffee down the drain. I walked to the bedroom, grabbed my purse, and headed for the door. Where are you going? He called after me, panic creeping into his voice. For a walk, I said without turning around. I need to clear my head. I did not go for a walk. I got in my car and drove. I had no destination in mind. I just needed to be away from him, away from the apartment that felt like a cage. As I drove, I thought about what to do next. Confronting Diana directly would be useless. She would lie and gaslight me until I doubted my own sanity. I needed more than just the emails. I needed a human element. I needed an ally. Then I thought of Aunt Carol. She was Diana's younger sister, but she was nothing like her. Carol was warm and down to earth, and she had always treated me with genuine kindness. She saw her sister for who she was. I had her number in my phone. My hands were shaking, but I pulled over to the side of the road and made the call. She answered on the second ring. Clara, is everything all right, dear? She asked, her voice full of concern. News of the shower disaster must have already spread through the family grapevine. Not really, Carol, I said, my voice cracking. The kindness in her voice was enough to break down the wall I had built around my emotions. Something terrible happened. I know, she said softly. I heard. I am so sorry. What my sister did was unforgivable. I need to ask you something, I said, taking a deep breath to steady myself. And I need you to be honest with me. Do you know anything about this situation with Sophie? Has Diana talked to you about it? There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Yes, Carol said finally, her voice heavy with resignation. She has. She's been obsessed for months, ever since she found out Sophie was pregnant. She thinks the baby is Mark's, I stated, the words tasting like poison. She's convinced of it, Carol confirmed. She won't listen to reason. She has this whole fantasy worked out in her head. She talks about bloodlines, about Sophie coming from a better family. It's like she's lost her mind. Did she tell you she was going to invite her to my shower? I asked, my knuckles white as I gripped the steering wheel. She mentioned she was planning a surprise, Carol said. I told her not to meddle. I told her she was going to destroy her relationship with Mark and with you, but she doesn't listen to anyone. Once Diana gets an idea in her head, that's it. She'll burn down the world to get what she wants. And Mark? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Do you think he knew? Do you think he knew Sophie was going to be there? Carol sighed. Oh, honey, I don't know for sure what he knew, but I know my sister. She can be very persuasive. She knows how to twist things, how to make you feel guilty if you don't go along with her. And Mark, bless his heart, he has never been good at standing up to her. He avoids conflict at all costs. It's possible Diana told him something, and he just hoped it wouldn't happen. Her words confirmed my worst fears. Mark was not a villain. He was a coward. And in some ways, that was so much worse. A villain you can fight. A coward will just let you fall. Thank you, Carol, I said, my voice thick with unshed tears. You have no idea how much this helps. You be strong, Clara, she said. You have a good heart. Don't let her poison it. After I hung up, I sat in my car for a long time. The conversation with Carol had solidified my resolve. I was not crazy. I was not overreacting. This was real. I had one more piece of the puzzle to find. I needed to talk to Sophie. She was the only other person who truly understood what it was like to be caught in Diana's web. She was either a co-conspirator or another victim. I had to find out which. Finding her was not as hard as I thought it would be. I remembered her last name from a comment on an old photo of her and Mark. I searched for her on social media. Her profile was private, but her profile picture showed her standing next to a man who was clearly not Mark, her hand resting on her pregnant belly, a happy, genuine smile on her face. This was not the face of a woman trying to steal someone else's husband. This was the face of a woman in love. I sent her a message request. My fingers fumbled on the screen as I typed. Sophie, this is Clara, Mark's wife. I know this is incredibly awkward, and you have every right to ignore this, but I need to talk to you about what happened at the shower. I wasn't angry with you. I was horrified for both of us. I think Diana has been lying to us. Please, if you're willing, I would love to just talk. No drama, I promise. I hit send, and then I waited. The waiting was the hardest part. For 3 days, I lived in a state of suspended animation. I went through the motions of life. I ate. I slept. Fitfully. I talked to Mark. Our conversations stilted and superficial. He kept trying to apologize, to smooth things over, to pretend that this was just a minor misunderstanding that could be fixed with a few sorries and a bouquet of flowers. He bought me flowers. I left them on the counter to wilt. He kept telling me he was going to have a serious talk with his mother, but every day he had a new excuse. She's not answering her phone. Now is not a good time. She's very emotional. I'll do it this weekend, I promise. He was stalling, hoping I would just get tired and let it go. He did not understand that something inside me had fundamentally changed. The part of me that was willing to smooth things over for the sake of peace was gone. It had been burned away in the fire of his mother's cruelty and his own cowardice. Diana, on the other hand, was not stalling. She began her assault. First came the texts. Clara, we need to talk. This has all been a terrible misunderstanding. I did not reply. The next day, another text. I know you're upset, but you need to think about what's best for the baby. The audacity of it stole my breath. Which baby was she referring to? The next one was even more direct. Mark needs to support his real child. You cannot stand in the way of his duty. She was not even trying to hide it anymore. She was openly trying to bully me, to intimidate me, to wear me down until I packed my bags and disappeared from their lives. I blocked her number. Then the calls started coming from unknown numbers. I stopped answering my phone altogether. I felt like I was under siege in my own home. The pressure was immense. Mark finally did have a talk with her. I knew because he came home one evening looking utterly defeated, like a soldier returning from a lost battle. He slumped onto the couch and buried his face in his hands. I stood in the doorway, my arms crossed. "So you talked to her," I said. It was not a question. He looked up at me, his eyes filled with exhaustion. "I did," he said. "I told her she crossed a line. I told her she needs to apologize to you." "And what did she say?" I asked, my voice hard. He winced. She said she was just doing what's best for her grandchild." I stared at him, my heart turning to a block of ice. "Which one, Mark?" I asked, my voice dangerously soft. Which grandchild was she talking about? The one she believes is Sophie's? Or the one that is growing inside of me? Your wife? "Clara, please don't," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I'm trying. I really am. It's just... She doesn't listen. She gets these ideas in her head." "It's not an idea, Mark," I snapped, my control finally slipping. "It's a campaign. She is actively trying to destroy our marriage. And you are just... What? Trying? Your trying isn't working. She is walking all over you, and she is walking all over me, and you are just letting it happen." "What do you want me to do?" he yelled back, standing up. "You want me to scream at her? Disown her? She's my mother." "I want you to be my husband," I cried, tears of frustration finally spilling down my cheeks. "I want you to protect your family. And right now, she is the biggest threat to this family that exists. You have to choose, Mark. You have to choose us." He just stared at me, his face a mixture of anger and despair. He did not say anything. He did not have to. His silence was the answer. He could not choose, and that was a choice in itself. I turned and walked away, the tears now flowing freely. I felt a profound sense of hopelessness. I was completely and utterly on my own. That night, as I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling and feeling the baby kick, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I glanced at it, expecting another call from a blocked number. But it was a message notification. From Sophie. My heart leaped into my throat. With trembling fingers, I opened it. "Hi, Clara," it read. "I'm so sorry for the delay in getting back to you. Things have been crazy, yes. I'd like to talk. I think you're right. I think we've both been used by Diana." A wave of relief so intense it made me dizzy washed over me. I was not alone anymore. I had a potential ally. I quickly typed back. "Thank you so much for responding. Would you be willing to meet? Coffee? Someplace quiet and neutral?" She replied almost immediately. "Yes, that would be good. How about the daily grind in Northwood? It's about halfway between us. Thursday at 1? "Perfect," I wrote back. "See you then." For the first time in days, I felt a flicker of hope. I did not know what Sophie would say, but I knew one thing for sure. Diana's carefully constructed world of lies was about to come crashing down. And I was going to be the one to light the match. The 2 days leading up to my meeting with Sophie were the longest of my life. I felt a nervous energy thrumming just beneath my skin. I was anxious, but also fiercely determined. This meeting felt like a turning point. It was my chance to seize control of a narrative that had been forced upon me. Mark sensed a shift in me. I was no longer just sad and withdrawn. I was purposeful, though he could not figure out why. "You seem different," he said one morning as I was getting ready. "I'm just tired of feeling helpless," I replied, meeting his gaze in the mirror. "I've decided to stop waiting for other people to solve my problems." A flicker of fear crossed his face. "What does that mean?" he asked. "It means I'm going to figure this out," I said, turning to face him, "with or without your help." On Thursday, I drove to Northwood, my purse with the printed emails sitting on the passenger seat like a silent companion. The daily grind was a small, quiet coffee shop, exactly the kind of neutral territory I had hoped for. I chose a booth in the back corner and ordered a decaf latte, my hands trembling slightly as I paid. Sophie arrived a few minutes after 1. She was even more pregnant than she had looked at the shower, and she moved with the slow, deliberate grace of a woman in her 3rd trimester. She looked tired, her face pale and strained. She spotted me and gave a small, hesitant smile. "Clara," she asked as she approached the table. "Sophie," I said, gesturing to the seat across from me. "Thank you for coming. Please sit." She eased herself into the booth with a sigh. "Thank you for inviting me," she said. "And again, I am so sorry about what happened at that party. It was a nightmare." "It was," I agreed. "And you were as much a victim in it as I was. That's what I wanted to talk to you about." I decided to be direct. There was no point in dancing around the issue. "Diana told you it was a shower for you, didn't she?" Sophie's eyes widened in surprise. She nodded slowly. "Not exactly a shower. She called it a family celebration for the baby. She told me that Mark wanted me there, that he had finally come to his senses and was leaving you." She looked down at her hands, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. I should have known it was a lie. It sounded too crazy to be true. But she was so convincing. "She can be," I said, my voice grim. "So let's get the most important question out of the way so we can clear the air. The baby," I said, gesturing to her belly. "Is there any chance at all that it's Mark's?" She looked up at me, her expression firm and unequivocal. "No," she said, her voice strong. "Absolutely not. 100% impossible. Mark and I haven't been together in over a year and a half. I have a fiancé. His name is David. We've been together for almost a year. He is the father of my child, and he's the most wonderful man I've ever known." The relief was so profound it was like a physical weight lifting off my chest. I had believed her profile picture, but hearing her say the words, seeing the conviction in her eyes, made it real. "I believe you," I said, "and I'm so happy for you." "Diana knows this, by the way," Sophie continued, her voice now tinged with anger. "I told her from the very beginning. I told her about David. She just refused to accept it. She has this whole narrative written in her head, and she doesn't care about the facts. She only cares about her story." This was the opening I needed. "Tell me everything, Sophie," I said, leaning forward. "From the beginning. How did she even find you?" Sophie took a deep breath and began to tell me her story. It was even worse than I had imagined. Diana had tracked her down through a mutual acquaintance a few months ago, shortly after Sophie and David had announced their pregnancy. At first, Diana had been friendly, feigning interest in Sophie's life. But as soon as she confirmed the pregnancy, her demeanor changed. She became intense, obsessive. "She started calling me every day," Sophie said, her voice trembling slightly at the memory. She would tell me that the baby was obviously Mark's, that I was lying to myself and to everyone else. She said I was throwing my life away on this other man when I could have a perfect life with Mark, with a proper family. "She offered you money, didn't she?" I guessed, my own anger growing on Sophie's behalf. Sophie's eyes filled with tears. She nodded. "Yes, a lot of money. She said it was a nest egg for the baby. She promised to buy us a house. She promised me a life of ease where I'd never have to work again. All I had to do was leave David and say the baby was Mark's." "And you kept telling her no," I said. Of course I did, she said, her voice rising with indignation. I love David. I would never do that to him. I told her to leave me alone. I blocked her number, but then she got nasty. Sophie paused, taking a shaky sip of the water she had ordered. She started threatening me, she whispered. She found out where David works. She found out about his family. She threatened to call his very conservative parents and tell them that I was a cheater, that I was trying to trap their son with another man's baby. She said she would ruin his reputation, that she would make sure everyone thought he was a fool. I was so scared. David's family means everything to him. I didn't know what to do. I was speechless. This went far beyond meddling. This was blackmail. This was a calculated, cruel campaign of terror against a pregnant woman. And she told you Mark was in on it, I said, the final piece clicking into place. Yes, Sophie said, wiping a tear from her cheek. That was the worst part. She swore to me that Mark was on board with the whole plan. She said he was miserable with you, that he had always loved me and that he was just too scared to leave. She said the party, the celebration, was his idea. It was supposed to be the moment he would publicly choose me and our real family. She made me believe that I was rescuing him. I reached across the table and put my hand on hers. Sophie, she lied to you about everything. Mark is weak, and he's a coward when it comes to his mother. But he is not a monster. He would never be part of a plan like that. She manipulated both of us. I opened my purse and pulled out the folded emails. I want you to see something, I said, sliding them across the table. This is an email chain between Mark and Diana from the week before the shower. Sophie picked up the papers and began to read. I watched as her expression shifted from confusion to shock, and finally, to pure rage. Her face grew pale as she read Diana's cold, calculating words. She saw Mark's weak protests and Diana's dismissive replies. She saw the full, unvarnished truth of the plot. When she finished, she looked up at me, her eyes blazing. That woman, she said, her voice a low, dangerous growl. She is evil. Yes, I said. She is, and she is not going to get away with it. What are you going to do? Sophie asked. I have a plan, I said, but I need your help. I need your story, and I need any proof you have. Any texts, any voicemails, anything from her. A determined look settled on Sophie's face. The fear was gone, replaced by a steely resolve. I have texts, she said, pulling out her phone. Dozens of them. I saved everything. The offers of money, the threats against David, the lies about Mark. I'll forward every single one of them to you right now. As my phone buzzed again and again with incoming messages, each one a nail in Diana's coffin, I felt a powerful alliance being forged in that quiet coffee shop. We were two women, two mothers-to-be, who had been targeted and manipulated by a cruel, narcissistic woman. But we were not her victims. We were her reckoning. She thought she could break us apart, I said, looking at Sophie, my new, unexpected ally. But instead, she just brought us together. Sophie nodded, a small, fierce smile on her lips. She is going to regret the day she ever messed with us. After my meeting with Sophie, I felt like a different person. The fog of grief and confusion had lifted, replaced by a crystal-clear sense of purpose. I had the truth. I had the evidence. I had an ally. Now, all I needed was a stage. I spent the next day organizing my ammunition. I printed out every text message Sophie had sent me and placed them in a folder with the emails between Mark and Diana. I read through them again and again, the words fueling my righteous anger. Diana's cruelty was breathtaking in its scope. She had offered Sophie a starting fund of $50,000. She had threatened to send an anonymous letter to David's employer accusing him of moral failings. She had spun a detailed fantasy about how she and Sophie would raise the baby together after I was removed from the picture. It was the work of a deeply disturbed individual. My best friend Lena came over that evening. I laid everything out on the kitchen table for her. The emails, the texts, The whole sordid story. She read through it all in stunned silence, her eyes getting wider with each page. When she was done, she looked up at me, her face pale. "Oh my God, Clara," she whispered. This is next level evil. This isn't just a meddling mother-in-law. This is a villain from a movie." "I know," I said. "And I'm done being her victim." "What are you going to do?" Lena asked, her voice a mixture of awe and concern. "Are you going to go to the police? This is literally blackmail." "I thought about it," I admitted. "But a police report feels impersonal. This was personal. The attack was personal. The response needs to be personal. I don't just want her to face consequences. I want her to be exposed. I want her to lose the one thing she values more than anything else. Her reputation. Her image as the perfect mother, the perfect matriarch." "So you're planning a public takedown," Lena said, a slow smile spreading across her face. "I love it. Where and when?" "That's what I'm trying to figure out," I said. "It can't be at her house or mine. It needs to be on neutral ground, but in front of the right people. The people whose opinions she cares about. The family." We brainstormed for a while, and then it hit me. Aunt Carol's 60th birthday party was in 2 weeks. It was a big deal. A catered dinner at her house. The whole family would be there. Diana would be there, holding court, playing the part of the gracious sister. Mark would be there, still trying to pretend everything was fine. It was the perfect venue. "Aunt Carol's birthday," I said. "It's perfect." "Are you sure Carol will be okay with you blowing up her party?" Lena asked. "I'm going to give her a heads up," I said. "Not the details, but enough so she's not completely blindsided. She's on my side. She'll understand." I called Carol the next day. "Carol," I said, "I need to ask for your blessing for something. I'm planning on confronting Diana about what she did, and I was thinking of doing it at your birthday party." There was a long pause. "Well," Carol said finally with a dry chuckle, "that will certainly be more exciting than a new set of dish towels. Are you sure that's what you want to do, dear?" "I am," I said firmly. "I need to do this in front of the family. I need them all to hear the truth from me, with proof. I can't let her control the story." "Then you have my blessing," Carol said. "My only request is that you wait until after I've had my cake. I've been looking forward to that cake all year." I laughed, a real, genuine laugh for the first time in what felt like an eternity. "It's a deal," I said. With the time and place set, there was only one variable left to deal with. Mark. I had to give him one final chance to tell me the truth. I had to know, for my own peace of mind, that I had given him every opportunity to choose our family. I waited until the night before Carol's party. I sat him down on the couch, my heart pounding in my chest. I felt strangely calm, like the air before a storm. "Mark," I began, my voice even and steady. "We're going to your Aunt Carol's party tomorrow, and I know that your mother will be there. Before we walk into that house, I need to ask you something, and I need you to give me a completely honest answer. No more hiding, no more protecting her, just the truth." He looked at me, his eyes wary. "Okay," he said slowly. "I am going to ask you one more time," I said, looking directly into his eyes, willing him to be the man I thought I had married. "What did you know about your mother's plan regarding Sophie and the baby shower?" He swallowed hard. I could see the internal struggle on his face. He was weighing his options, calculating the potential damage of each possible answer. He was still thinking about himself. "Clara, we've been over this," he started, falling back on his old, tired script. "She's obsessed. It's not real. I love you and I love our baby. That's all that matters." "That's not what I asked," I said, my voice hardening. "I asked what you knew. Did you know she was going to invite Sophie with the intention of ambushing me and trying to replace me?" He looked down at his hands, unable to meet my gaze. "I didn't know the details," he mumbled. "I didn't know it would be like that. I didn't think she'd actually go through with it. And there it was, the admission. Not a full confession, but an admission of complicity. He knew. He had known enough. He had known there was a threat, a possibility, a danger to me and to our marriage, and he had chosen to hope it would go away rather than taking a stand to stop it. He had gambled with my happiness, and he had lost. A profound and sorrowful certainty settled over me. It was not the fiery rage I had felt before. It was a quiet, cold clarity. I finally understood that I could not build a life with this man as he was. I could not raise a child with a partner who would not protect us. His loyalty was not to me. It was to his own comfort, to the path of least resistance. And that path always led straight back to his mother. "Okay, Mark," I said, my voice devoid of all emotion. "I understand." I stood up and walked to our bedroom, closing the door behind me. He looked worried. He called my name, but I did not answer. He should be worried. He had no idea what was coming. He thought this was just another argument, another rough patch we would get through. He did not realize that he had already made his choice, and tomorrow I was going to make mine. The storm was finally here. We arrived at Aunt Carol's house separately. I told Mark I was meeting Lena for lunch first and would see him there. I needed the space to prepare myself mentally. I walked in alone, my folder of evidence tucked inside a large tote bag. The house was buzzing with conversation and laughter. It was a picture of a happy family, a facade I was about to tear down. Diana was in her element, holding court by the fireplace, a glass of wine in her hand. She saw me enter and her smile tightened almost imperceptibly. She gave me a curt nod and then deliberately turned her back to me. Fine. Let her enjoy her last few moments as queen. Mark found me by the appetizers, his face a mask of nervous energy. "You're here," he said, stating the obvious. "Are you okay? You seem tense." "I'm fine," I said, my voice cool. "Just enjoying the party." The dinner was a long, drawn-out affair. I sat between Aunt Carol, who gave my hand a reassuring squeeze under the table, and Mark's father, a quiet man who had long ago abdicated his role as head of the family to his overbearing wife. Diana sat at the opposite end of the table, laughing too loudly, telling stories that painted her as a saint. I ate little, my stomach a knot of anticipation. Finally, the plates were cleared and a large birthday cake, blazing with 60 candles, was brought out. We all sang Happy Birthday to Carol, who beamed as she blew out the candles in one impressive puff. As slices of cake were being passed around, I knew it was time. I stood up, my water glass in my hand. I did not tap it. I did not need to. My movement was enough to draw the attention of everyone at the table. The room quieted. "I'd like to say something," I said, my voice clear and steady. It did not even tremble. All eyes were on me. I saw confusion on most faces. I saw fury on Diana's. I saw sheer terror on Mark's. "A few weeks ago," I began, my gaze fixed on my mother-in-law, "Diana was kind enough to throw me a baby shower. And at this shower, she made a toast. Some of you were there. Her toast was, 'To my real grandchild.' I've been thinking about those words a lot, and I think it's time that everyone here understood exactly what she meant." "I don't know what you're talking about," Diana snapped, her face flushing a blotchy red. "You must have had too much punch. You're being hysterical." "Am I?" I asked, my voice dangerously sweet. "I don't think so. You see, I have here some emails. An email chain between you and your son, Mark. The subject line is The Plan." I reached into my tote bag and pulled out the folder. I opened it and took out the first printed page. Mark went so pale I thought he might faint. His father stared at him, then at me, a dawning horror on his face. "I won't bore you with the whole thing," I said, my eyes scanning the page. "But I'll read my favorite part. This is from you, Diana, to Mark. We will humiliate Clara at the shower, so you have no choice but to come back to your real family with Sophie." A collective gasp went through the room. Diana shot to her feet. Those are lies. You fabricated those. You are a sick, vindictive girl. Am I? I asked again, my calm unwavering. I put down the emails and picked up my phone. Then how about these? These are text messages, dozens of them. From you to Sophie, the very pregnant ex-girlfriend you invited to my shower. Would you like me to read the one where you offer her $50,000 to claim her baby as Mark's? Or perhaps the one where you threaten to ruin her fiancé's career if she doesn't cooperate? The silence in the room was absolute. It was so quiet I could hear the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. Diana's face had crumpled. The mask was gone. All that was left was ugly, exposed fury. Or my personal favorite, I continued, my voice dripping with ice. The one where you lay out your plan to have me removed from the picture, so you and Sophie can raise the baby together. Your real grandchild. Mark's father finally spoke, his voice a low rumble. Diana? Is any of this true? She's twisting my words, Diana shrieked, her voice cracking. I was just trying to help my son. She was never good enough for him. I was doing what was best for our family. Best for the family? I asked, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. You tried to destroy a marriage. You blackmailed a pregnant woman. You emotionally manipulated your own son. All of it based on a complete and utter fantasy in your head. Because I have one more revelation for you, Diana. The saddest part of your whole pathetic plan. I paused, letting the weight of the moment sink in. I spoke to Sophie. She's a lovely person, by the way. And her baby isn't Mark's. It was never Mark's. She has a fiancé she loves very much. They are very happy together. You did all of this. You caused all this pain. For nothing. Then, I turned my full attention to my husband. He was staring at me, his eyes wide with a mixture of shame and desperation. And you, I said. And now I switched to the present tense because this is happening right now, in this moment. You are not innocent in this. I am looking at the emails you sent back to her. You knew. You knew she was a threat to me, to our child, to our family, and you did nothing. You let her do this to me. You are standing there right now, a weak, spineless man who won't protect his own wife. Clara, no. He whispers, his voice choked. I'm sorry. I'll fix it. I promise I can fix this. How? I demand, my voice rising. How can you possibly fix this? You can't. The choice was always simple. It was to stand with me or to stand with her. And you just stood in the middle, hoping the problem would go away. But standing in the middle, Mark, is the exact same thing as standing with her. You made your choice. I looked around at the shocked faces of his family. I looked at Diana, who was now weeping, not with remorse, but with the rage of a tyrant who has been overthrown. I looked at Mark, a broken man who had broken my heart. Happy birthday, Carol, I said, my voice softening as I looked at my only ally in the room. I'm sorry about your party. Then I picked up my tote bag, turned my back on the wreckage of my marriage, and walked out the door. I did not look back. The aftermath was swift and brutal. I went directly from Carol's party to Lena's house, my phone buzzing incessantly in my purse. Mark was calling and texting, over and over. Clara, please come home. We can fix this. I love you. Don't do this to us. The messages were a frantic barrage of desperation. I turned my phone off. I could not deal with him. Not yet. Lena opened her door, took one look at my face, and pulled me into a hug. You did it, she whispered. How do you feel? Empty, I said honestly as I sank onto her couch. And free. The next morning, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. It was Mark's father, Frank. His voice was heavy. Clara, he said, I just wanted to call and apologize. For Diana's behavior. For my own. I stood by for years and let her run roughshod over everyone. I never should have let it get to this point. What she did to you was monstrous. Thank you, Frank, I said, surprised by his candor. I appreciate you saying that. She's not doing well, he continued. Carol told her she's not welcome in her home anymore. My own brother called me this morning to say he was disgusted with her. She's destroyed her own family, all the things she claimed to value, her reputation, her social standing. It's all gone. It was not triumph I felt, but a sad, hollow sense of justice. She had gotten what she deserved. She had prized her public image above all else, and I had taken it from her, using nothing but the truth. I stayed with Lena for a full week. It was a week of quiet reflection. I saw a lawyer to understand my options. I talked to my own cousins, who were horrified and offered their unwavering support. I spent hours just sitting, my hands on my belly, talking to my baby, telling her that she was loved, that she was wanted, and that I would always, always protect her. Mark, to his credit, did not give up. But his tactics changed. The frantic, begging texts stopped. Instead, he started sending me simple daily updates. I've scheduled my first appointment with a therapist. I've started reading a book on setting boundaries with manipulative parents. I told my mother that she is not to contact me or you ever again. I told her if she violates that, I will get a restraining order. He sent me a screenshot of the text exchange. It was blunt, unequivocal, and everything I had needed him to say weeks ago. Diana, of course, did not respect the boundary. She tried to call him from her friends' phones. She even showed up at our apartment. He did not let her in. He called the police and had her escorted off the property for trespassing. He sent me a copy of the police report. He was finally taking action. He was finally fighting for us. At the end of the week, he asked if he could see me. I agreed to meet him at a park, on neutral ground. He looked terrible. He had lost weight, and there were dark circles under his eyes. But he also looked different, stronger. I know I don't deserve it, he began, his voice thick with emotion. But I am asking you for one last chance, not to go back to how things were, but to build something new, something better, with me as the husband you deserve. He laid out his plan. He wanted us to go to marriage counseling. He wanted to sell our apartment and move to a new town, further away from his family's influence, a true fresh start. He said he would spend the rest of his life earning back my trust, if I would only let him try. I looked at this man, the father of my child. I saw the coward he had been, but I also saw a glimmer of the man he could become. The baby kicked inside me. A gentle reminder of the future we had planned together. It would not be easy. The trust was shattered, and rebuilding it would be a long, arduous process. But maybe, just maybe, it was possible. Okay, Mark, I said softly. One last chance, but it's on my terms. We do everything you said. Counseling, we move, and your mother is out of our lives. For good. If you slip up even once, I'm gone. Do you understand? I understand, he said, tears welling in his eyes. Thank you, Clara. I won't let you down again. We did it. We sold the apartment and moved an hour away. We found a wonderful therapist who helped us navigate the minefield of our broken trust. Mark worked harder than I had ever seen him work, at our marriage and at himself. He was learning how to be a husband and a father first, and a son second. It was a slow, painful process, but little by little, the chasm between us began to close. 2 months later, I gave birth to our daughter, a beautiful, healthy baby girl named Hope. Holding her in my arms, I knew I had made the right decision. I had fought for her, for the peaceful life she deserved, free from the poison of her grandmother's making. Diana has never met her granddaughter. According to Aunt Carol, she is a ghost of her former self, isolated and bitter. She lost everything she claimed she was fighting for. Her family walks on eggshells around her. Her friends keep their distance. She got her wish. She is the matriarch of a broken kingdom of her own creation. Sophie also had her baby, a healthy boy. We exchange pictures sometimes. She and David are blissfully happy. We are forever linked by the strange, traumatic event that brought us together. Two women who found strength in an unexpected alliance. Sometimes in the dead of night, when I'm watching Hope sleep, a flicker of the old fear returns. I wonder if Mark will ever slip, if the pull of his mother's manipulation will ever be too strong. But then he'll walk into the room, his eyes soft with love for me and our daughter, and he'll wrap his arms around us. A silent promise of protection. And I know we will be okay. I learned something powerful through all of this. I learned that my voice matters. I learned that my peace is worth fighting for. And I learned that I am my own defender. Diana tried to make me small, to erase me from my own life. But she failed. She did not break me. She forged me into something stronger. She meant to toast to her real grandchild, but in the end, the only real thing she created was the unshakable strength of a mother who would burn down the world to protect her child. And that is a power she could never understand.